Next, I'll present an overview of our levy investments after the recent levy. This report outlines the strategic allocation of funds generated from the recent passage of the levy, highlighting how these resources are being utilized to advance our district's goals. This presentation will provide insights into the progress made, the impact of these investments on our school community, and our continued commitment to transparency and accountability at every step forward. Again, I'd first like to begin with a spirit of gratitude. I'd like to take this opportunity to again thank our community for supporting our students and school communities by supporting with the passage of Issue 11. First, before I get into the presentation, I would like to invite our treasurer, Ms. Vanover, to share with the board and the community some of the logistics and timing for the district to receive levy monies and the appropriations of these resources.
Thank you. So I just wanted to kind of, again, share what the process is. Following the organizational meeting on the 9th of January, we began receiving advances that following week on all of the taxes. That's both old and new levies that are available to us. And this is relevant for all of the funds that are funded by tax dollars. So you're talking your operating funds, your permanent improvement funds. We also have bond issue revenue coming in to cover debt service, as well as we have a dedicated permanent improvement levy that's for OFCC funded projects. That's required by statute. We anticipate receiving the final settlement by the end of this month. That is per the Franklin County Auditor. Tonight, later in the consent agenda, the board is approving an appropriations resolution amendment to the current appropriations, which will allow us to then create the account codes and budget those funds that have begun coming in for the permanent improvement levy. One thing I just wanted to note, we brought this forward to include the funds that are coming in from the PI levy. The reason that we are not increasing appropriations as it relates to the general fund is because the general fund investments that Dr. Chapman will talk about going forward, as well as what we've been talking about all through the whole levy process, is for it's for the coming school year. So the needs of the general fund for this year are already included in those appropriations. So when we bring forward permanent appropriations for the coming school year, those new resources will be available as well as all of the other information that we are providing. And again, what this does is by the board approving the appropriations resolution, that's step one. Next step is that then our budget department has the ability to create those budget account codes. We can start encumbering those funds so that projects for the coming school year on the capital side of things can begin. At this point in time, we have received funds, but we have not expended anything from the new money, just to be clear. Once these codes are built, we'll put in the POs, the work will begin. The likelihood of those funds for the new levy, from that standpoint, being spent this year is pretty slim because, again, these are long processes. We're in the beginning stages of how to expend those funds, and we're getting those planning pieces in place. We're trying to get that stuff moving forward. So that's essentially what the appropriation resolution tonight is about, and that kind of helps hopefully provide some context as to how that works into the existing process that we have as it relates to our tax funding. So other thing I guess I want to point out, if you review legislation that has been brought forth primarily through the facilities department since December, so following the approval of the issue 11, the legislation provided multiple funding sources. Again, as we deal with multiple options, be it ESSER funds, be it a variety of buckets, for lack of a better word, within the PI fund. This PI fund that we have been approved at the November levy is included in a lot of those legislations. So there's a lot of legislation that has already been brought forth to the board and been approved that will potentially utilize these funds, again, as we work through all of those various funding sources. So that's where Alex and his team have been very forward-thinking and very purposeful with trying to include all of that so that we have the ability to move forward without having to provide delays, bringing stuff back to the board. That's also a reason we pushed for, or we brought that resolution forward to align with the appropriation resolution so that our legislation and our appropriations align. So, again, we just wanted to provide some context as it relates to how that works. If there are any specific questions about the process or those funds, I would entertain those at the end when we get, after Dr. Chapman goes through the other information.
Thank you, Treasurer Vanover. As we had discussed in the statement of facts, in September and continuously since, we are adding positions to the general fund that will take effect in school year 24-25. The vast majority of these positions are current ESSER-funded positions that we will be able to maintain. We've seen the important work these positions have provided to our students and families, including social-emotional supports, direct family supports, operational improvements, and staff coverage for continuity of education. These new positions added will include the expansion of pre-K. It is critical that we continue to focus on expanding the availability of pre-K across the district and across the city to ensure our students are prepared to succeed when they enter kindergarten. And again, that is a change that will take place for next school year 24-25. Our teams are currently working in the identified non-personnel areas, which will see an increase, again, tied to the information we provided in our statement of facts about the levy. Like our ESSER-funded positions, many of these programs were started or enhanced with ESSER money, and we are very fortunate to be able to continue and adapt these student and family supports, including technology for students, security measures, restorative practice, training, and more. As we stand up our new board goal around math, we are creating a focus on math, professional development, similar to the focus on literacy we've previously had. And so again, right now we're doing the planning work. These funds will become available to spend for next school year as early as July. And so right now it's planning for what will take place, the changes and the investments that we'll be able to implement for next school year. We are also able to support high-need teacher licensure incentives, including recruitment and retention of teachers in high-need licensure areas, and teacher pipeline and apprenticeship work, which we see as a main driver in diversifying our teaching staff by preparing current non-teaching staff in our Columbus community to move into the teaching profession. The redesign of our high school pathways will ensure we are engaging students in the education that will keep them excited about coming to school every day while preparing them for the future workforce. On the non-personnel side, our teams are also working on moving away from our previous model, which was the run-to-fail model, in which our assets are used until they break down or require repair or replacement, to a predictive and preventive maintenance model. That is a huge shift and a transformation for our district's operations team. Columbus City Schools has never before had sustained funding to take care of our fixed assets, and we believe this work will be transformational for permanent improvement management. And as Treasurer Vanover has explained, we are receiving those monies. We have received authorization by our board to begin planning for the use and allocation of those funds, but none of these resources have been expended as of yet. Again, we're still in the planning mode and preparing for how we allocate these resources and investments. Certainly, we want to acknowledge and name that we realize the importance of community engagement in this process, and we will work to be as transparent and inclusive as possible to share information and provide updates regularly. With this in mind, a Levy Promise webpage will be created that will provide details on updates related to these investments, such as personnel as well as permanent improvements. Also, signage will be added to schools to identify projects, programs that are associated with these new recent investments. Finally, regular notifications, again, will be provided to board members, staff, and community stakeholders on the levy implementation process and the progress being made.